Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's episode was recorded on March the 3rd, 2020. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, the prettiest princess,
the Caffeine Rage.
On today's show, we will, of course, be discussing some games played this week. We will be talking about our February Game Club, slightly late stacking. We'll be discussing, or letting you know, what the next Game Club game is going to be for the month of March. Bethesda was, quote, surprised how few people wanted to take part in PvP in Fallout 76. GoG expands its refund policy to 30 days. Borderlands 2 update advertising Borderlands 2's latest update advertising Borderlands 3 breaks the game. And we will have a weekly discovery queue as long as time allows. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rage.
Hello.
What's new with you?
Well, have a cat coming next week, so got that going for me, which is nice. I have a new supervisor.
Yay, cats. I think I've mentioned this on the show before, but I'm allergic to cats, which is sad because I love cats.
Well, you could always get one of the, hairless ones.
Yeah. But then that defeats, one of the biggest perks of having a cat, which is how soft and cuddly they are when in the proper mood.
Yeah.
When the cat is in the proper mood.
Yeah, there was one at the shelter. Anita and I went to the animal shelter. There was a little kitten with long hair that was real cuddly, real loving, demanding of attention, but it was already adopted, so yeah, I couldn't get that one.
Right.
There was a bunch of, there was a litter of black and white kittens. The all black ones were already long gone. And the couple of the white one or black and white ones, they were still available, but they were like a month old, sub 2 months old. And we talked it over. And whenever you're getting a cat that young, you really don't know what to expect from it because, it hasn't developed its personality yet. It's still, feeling out, how catty the cat's going to be, right?
Yeah.
So we decided, our cutoff was probably be about 2 or 3 months. And there was a couple cats that were, like 3 or 4 years old, which were all right. But they didn't seem really interested in us, so yeah, we'll left them. Which left the younger cats. And one, after she woke up and got over her broodiness, she's about 6 months old, so that puts her, prime teenager material, right?
Yep. Which will be fun. Teenage cat.
Yeah, she decided, you know what? We're tolerable. So we're going to get a cat named Sunshine. Which, she's sweet when she wants to be. Very cat-like, right? But mellow all other times. So hopefully avoided the kitten zoomies. So
yeah.
She needs to get fixed, and then we'll have her likely either late this week or early next. So I'm not sure if there'll be a cat meowing in the background for the next episode, but we'll see.
Yeah. I'm proper allergic. Within a couple hours, I can't breathe really, and I get itchy, and more than a day, and I get a sinus infection. It's very sad.
Well, they have plenty of dogs.
Yeah. We're looking into getting a dog soon. We want to get a fence. We want a fence in our backyard before we do, but we might just wind up getting the dog first. And
small or big dog?
Kind of medium size, like a 30 pound dog. I want a small dog. I'm a small dog person. Katie's a bigger dog person.
Now, are we talking about small dog as in where it starts, going towards more rat territory?
No, not quite. Dachshunds are my favorite dog breed of all time.
Oh, the long dog.
I'm okay with a Yorkie. they're like tiny, but in a good way. I'm not a big fan of like a Chihuahua or a Pug.
No.
No, I'm not into dogs like that.
Yeah, pugs to me, I had a pug growing up. Well, it was my mom's, but she died because she caught a cold and just suffocated. Because pugs have severe breathing problems.
Yeah.
I mean, we just found her and she was, gone. And, found out that, it was a cold. Yeah, dogs that have the stub nose, that just feels so damn cruel.
Yeah.
The breeds that have severe genetic problems because they've been inbred so much. Just what the fuck, right?
Yep. People value or have valued very specific traits in the past and have ruined an entire, quote, breed of dog to get that trait.
I mean, to be fair, dachshunds do have the problem as well.
Yeah, they have back problems if they get too fat and then get older.
Yeah, you need to keep it hot dog, not kielbasa.
Indeed. But yeah, I'm a smaller dog kind of person. 15 pounds is like a max size for my like preferences.
I guess I'm bordering towards more medium size, even though I've had both large and small dogs. I remember having a Basset at one point. But she was far too clever for her own good. Had a Beagle. Had a Pomeranian, which, well, a lot of these were either my mom's or... my mom absolutely loved her Great Danes, which is like the opposite end of the scale. That's getting more towards horse.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I rode a Great Dane when I was little, accidentally, around the living room. But unfortunately, I didn't hold on for the entire 6 seconds.
But fucking was that you play? You fucking piece of shit! I've been sitting here staring. I've had like a tiny amount of packet loss for a little bit, and a higher ping than normal. And I'm like, what do I have open on my computer that's not normally open? And I open Task Manager and fucking Uplay. I close it, everything's back to normal.
Ubisoft, you incompetent piece of shit.
I don't know what it was doing in the background. Probably downloading some shit or monitoring my every move. Fuck you, Uplay.
Judging you silently.
I'll be talking about a couple of Ubisoft games in the next few weeks because I've recently got back on the Anno, or gotten back into Anno. And I got the Division 2. Is it still on sale? It was on sale for like $3 as like a promotion for their new expansion.
Yeah, well, where I had problems with the original Division, I didn't even bother with it.
Yeah. From what I've played so far, I like it. But, I mean, I've barely scratched the surface on the game. Just like a couple hours, so. But that's a good segue to actually talk about the one game I'm going to discuss this week. I think I mentioned last week that I had like 7 games that I could talk about and bring up.
Yeah, I focused just getting on stacking and honestly just sorting out some stuff and getting the kitchen a little bit more sorted. I did get a new shelf that I have to put together, and hey, my hand's almost healed from where the last one bit me.
Good job. Way to go, your body. It's doing what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, unlike yours.
Yeah, my body is broken. But yeah, Battlestar Galactica Deadlock. I played that a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago now, and beat the main game. I should say I only have the base game. There's a number of DLCs out for it. There's a Season 1, which has got 4 DLCs, and a Season 2, which currently has 2 DLCs in it. And I believe 3 of the Season 1 DLCs are, like, actual game additions. Like, one of them adds a game mode, and then the other two of the other ones are additional story stuff, and then one of them is just, like, a ship pack. But but all I have played is the base game. So for people familiar with Battlestar Galactica or have seen the shows, although in particular the newer show from the mid-2000s, and then by extension the mini movie, what was it called? Raven's Crest or Raven's Fall?
Oh, I thought you were going the miniseries before that, but no.
No, there was I think it's called Raven's Fall. It's like, it takes a look. So in Battlestar Galactica, there's another Battlestar that shows up in season, I believe it's 3. It might be towards the end of season 2. The Pegasus. And the mini movie takes a look at the Pegasus. It's like 90 minutes. And how the Pegasus got to where it was. And then it has some flashback stuff to the first Cylon War. But this game has got several characters that are present in the show in their younger forms, and it's a look at the first Cylon War, which takes place approximately 35 to 40 years before the events of the TV show. And it's a time when the colonial fleet was not absolutely wiped out in a surprise attack, and there's a huge war that breaks out between the Cylons and the 12 colonies of Earth. The general history of that is humans create AI and artificial life forms, and the artificial life forms don't like being slaves, and so they rebel. And this takes place kind of it doesn't really give you like an exact timeline. The game just basically says like, well, it's sort of like in the middle part of the war. It's basically we're in a deadlock. Which is hence the name, Battlestar Galactica Deadlock, of, conflict with no clear winner. There's, clear victories sometimes in battle, but it kind of the political landscape and the sort of borders shift back and forth, and there's no real clear winner. The story takes place across 13 campaign missions. And in sort of this kind of traditional tactical type strategic map, as you go through the various missions, you unlock more and more of the game's ship roster and features, essentially. And if you've ever played there's a number of these games that my brain is just
sort of like BattleTech.
Yeah. As you go through the campaign, you unlock more stuff, more specific ships and ship types, and Ruse is the one that I'm thinking of specifically, which was a World War II.
Yeah, I have that. I never got around to playing it, actually.
Ruse kind of does this as well, and I know there's a couple others. My brain is just failing me. I'm very tired. I've had a couple of long days at work, so my apologies for that. But in essence, the game is plays out in 2 parts. You've got the strategic map, which is broken up into the various colonies and then a few other planets that are part of the quaternary star system that makes up the sort of universe of Battlestar. And then the tactical fleet battles, where that you actually take control of the fleet. Anyone who has either played this game previously or seen older reviews of it, pretty much all of the issues that have been discussed in the initial reviews of this game have been fixed. Initially, you could only, for example, issue commands to one ship at a time. Controlling all of your fighters was a mess, but you can now multiple select. You can either just do bandboxing, you can create groups, you can select individual ships still. There's a big menu on the left side, and you can basically shift click and get as many of them as you want. But it plays.
There's an error on on the Battlestar Galactica Deadlock Steam page.
There's an error, you said?
Yeah.
Where?
It says their publisher. It's not Paradox with all this DLC. I was making a joke.
Oh, okay.
You're far too sleep-addled. I was saying they're getting to Paradox levels of DLC on this.
Gotcha. But anyways, and the fleet battles play out in this sort of real-time turn-based combination. Essentially, you select all of the movements for your fleet, issue basic move orders, attack commands, launching special munitions, fighters, etc. And then you hit play, and something like 5 or 6 seconds plays out in real time.
It's the Frozen Synapse model.
Yeah, and then the game pauses.
It's a simultaneous turn-based where you have a planning mode and you plan out X amount of time.
Yeah, exactly. But with this being in 3 or 4-dimensional space, 3-dimensional space, up,
3.
down, left, right.
Forward, back. No, time technically is a dimension, but not in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, it is a space game. Verticality actually is important. That you're not fighting on just like a 2D plane.
Yeah, it's not space as an ocean.
Yeah, it's space is space. And that allows you to do a lot of interesting things because ships have different gun placements. So, you have sort of your standard broadside front and back, but there's also dorsal and ventral weapons. And certain ships are more powerful if you can get underneath an enemy. Certain ships more powerful, you can get above them. You can use evasive maneuvers. That's not like a specific command. All ships have got sort of a range of movement. And whenever you click on a ship or a group of ships and go to move them, you can see it's just represented as sort of a ghost image. What that ghost image doesn't show you, though, is that if you do some pretty hardcore turns or pretty severely yaw the ship, a lot of times it will roll, and you can actually utilize that to fire either a ship's dorsal or ventral guns at an enemy that they wouldn't normally be able to target. So Battlestars, all of the Battlestars are, well, the 2 different types of Battlestars that exist in the game, 2 different ship classes of them, have extremely powerful dorsal guns. Those dorsals top, I think, have extremely powerful weapons mounted on the top of the ship. I'll just say that. And you can, but they don't have a good firing arc if you're trying to fire broadside or attack forward. So you can do sort of an evasive maneuver, get the ship to roll, and then you can bring those guns to bear for a couple of turns before it sort of rights itself. So you can do lots of neat things like that with the fleet tactics. On top of that, every ship feels like it has a place throughout the entirety of the game. In the base game, there's something like 10 different classes of capital ship, all the way from a very fast, small, light corvette up to the Battlestars and the fleet carriers, which are massive, slow ships with a lot of firepower. And then the Battlestars have sort of everything, and the fleet carriers have got a large amount of fighters that they carry, but sort of weaker guns. But every ship feels like it has a place, even into the late game. The Corvette has got one of the best sensor ranges, so it makes an excellent scout ship throughout the entirety of the game. You can equip it with nuclear missiles, so it can become like a quick hit and run strike craft. And it's in groupings, sort of like wolf pack groups of 3 or 4. They can attack and take down much larger ship types than them, including enemy gunships and base stars. And then beyond that, every other ship feels like it has a niche. You've got sort of a light carrier that also works as a pretty decent like ship of the line. It's called the Adamant Frigate. You've got a cruiser which focuses on special munitions, and it has like a bonus to how quickly it can fire torpedoes or missiles. There's like a straight up gunship that is meant to be like your shield and sort of primary damage dealer for a smaller fleet. There's the Battlestars, which double as both battleships and carriers. There's the fleet carriers, which can carry 2 squads of Vipers and then 1 squad of a support fighter, Raptors, and I can't remember what the other one is for the life of me, but there's 2 various support fighters that do drastically different things. It can play into battles in different ways, and so on. Like every ship genuinely feels like it fills a role and can be utilized effectively in a fleet strategy. I did find that the game kind of gets bogged down in the middle part. Once you get to around mission 7 or 8, the Cylons really ramp up how much they're attacking you. And you have to pick and choose. Like if you want to sort of secure support from the 12 colonies, which is a mechanic I'll talk about in a second, then you have to build a lot of fleets and spend a lot of time every turn fighting every Cylon fleet that comes in. If you want to try and push through and complete the story, then you only focus on one or two fleets, but then everybody hates you because you're not defending them. And the battles get exponentially harder, and without the support of the colonies, it's hard to keep up. So there's this sort of there's a mechanic with the 12 colonies where that you have to defend them from Cylon fleets. So if a Cylon fleet is parked in orbit or wins battles or destroys sort of secondary targets that pop up as like random missions that you can undertake for bonus resources, you start to lose support from the colonies. And if too many colonies drop out, then you lose overall support. You get no more resources. It's not specifically a fail state. You can bring the colonies back into support if you secure their worlds. But with no resources, it becomes impossible to repair your ships and to resupply and build new ships. So it's that can be a tough thing to manage. I never got below 6 colonies. I chose to go sort of the slog route in the middle of the game and got 6 or 7 really powerful fleets. And I figured out where all the Cylons were coming from. So like eventually the campaign is like, hey, there's a big Cylon factory world over here. Go blow it up. But I figured out where they were coming from really early on and essentially locked down the only route they have to get in to the 12 colonies. But still, every turn I was having to do like 5 or 6 battles. It got to be a real slog. So it took me about 25 hours to beat the campaign in one go. I think if I went and did it again, I could probably get through it in 18 to 20 hours. I could do it with fewer fleets now that I understand the mechanics and the ship rolls better. But, I mean, overall, I really enjoyed it. I love how it makes you play smart, how there's a lot of variety of strategies that you can employ based on your fleet composition. I love the Battlestar Galactica universe. The theme makes this game a lot better. It's still a good game to play, but if you're not a big fan of Battlestar Galactica, that loses some of the appeal. It has this really cool replay after every battle that you do, where that it uses like an auto or an AI camera and director that makes the battles look like they did in the show. And I mean, every battle, when you play it out in real time, is usually about 3 to 5 minutes. And that's very cool to watch. It does kind of get old, honestly, after you like to watch it after every battle. But you have one that's like a real nail biter, and you're like, oh shit, I wanna watch that like how it would play out in the show. That is a very cool feature. But if you don't have the investment in the property itself, it kind of loses some of the extra appeal that it gives the game. Overall, though, I mean, even without that, it's a very solid strategy game with some more unique mechanics. I won't say that this doesn't exist in other games, and this studio specifically has another game that they made before Battlestar Galactica Deadlock that utilizes these same mechanics, just without as good of a sort of a theme around it. But other types of this game exist, but I haven't seen one done as well as this for a spaceship combat game. So it's solid on its own. I think the base game is definitely worth picking it up on sale. If you're a fan of the series, it's regularly on sale for just a few dollars. It's like $40 to buy it right now, but it was just recently on sale for, I think it was $5 or it might've been $10. They had, when the most recent DLC released, the whole series was on sale. So if you've never checked it out, I think it's worth it. I do intend to get the DLC the next time that goes on a really good sale. Season 1, the Season 1 bundle was like $20-something. It wasn't that great of a deal. It's been cheaper on Steam sales. So probably definitely by the summer sale. If they do like a spring type sale, I might pick it up then. Steam does, that is. But otherwise on the summer sale, I'll probably pick up the DLC to play through it again. One of the DLCs adds a mode that's kind of like the show. You're a fleet that gets stranded, and you have to make your way through an entire campaign with just your resources at hand, and sort of keep your fleet limping along until you can complete it. I really like the idea of that. And then, like I said, a couple of the other DLCs add a bunch of missions and additional story content to the game that builds on the lore of the universe. So I thoroughly enjoyed and recommend this game to anyone who likes Battlestar Galactica or turn-based combat or really cool spaceship games. 2 thumbs up.
Or just nuking the fuck out of some AI, right?
Yeah, that too. Fire the torpedoes.
I am tired.
But I am tired. I mean, it is pretty cool to watch in the replay mode, like, I don't know, 150 torpedoes streaking from half a dozen ships towards a big-ass base star, and you're like, oh yeah, that thing's about to get wrecked.
I mean, if memory serves correctly, they actually reproduced the show's aesthetic for the camera really well, so...
Oh yes, it's amazing. There's whole YouTube channels that I've seen dedicated to making really cool looking battles, specifically using that AI director. It's cool. So, moving on from that though, let's go talk about another game, which is the February Game Club. We tackled this one a week later just because we had a couple.
Yeah, I moved, so that robbed me of some time and just right.
Yeah,
we thought it was well. To be fair, didn't go into February expecting me to move. That kind of happened pretty quickly. So, but the thing is that with everything, just it was best to take a little bit of extra time and not have to try to rush through it. And well, here we are, and And should we just go ahead and say that the next Game Club is also going to be late to give it proper time?
Yeah, we're going to push the next Game Club out one week into April.
Yeah, and then get back on the regular schedule in April.
Yeah, because April's game is another one that's relatively short, so shouldn't have any issues with it. But yeah, in case you have this is your first episode with us or your first Game Club with us,
we're sorry.
What Game Club is that Rage and I oftentimes play very different games, and even if we play the same game, it's usually not at the same time. Game Club is a way for us to play the same game at the same time, and then talk about it. So for February, we played Stacking, which is a Double Fine game released in, I believe, 2011 or 2012.
It was released in February 8th, 2011, so... We were doing it on the 9th anniversary.
Yep, that was
or a little over the 9th anniversary.
That was totally 100% planned out. That wasn't an accident at all. No siree.
Shh, I don't think you're very convincing.
You're right. I'm not. This game, I had played it.
It's a Double Fine game. In both the positive and the negative aspects of it.
Overall, I found it more frustrating than fun. What Stacking is that you play... It's Russian stacking dolls, and you play a teeny tiny little kid Russian stacking doll whose family basically is captured away from him. And you go on an adventure to save them, and you solve various puzzles by... possessing, like you jump inside of a slightly larger stacking doll than you, and so on and so forth. You know, you can stack multiple dolls to get to different sizes.
And there's both unique dolls that are just one in that area that has a very special ability, and there's also kind of generic ones that also have different abilities. And in order to get to a larger doll, you have to have an intermediary doll. So Charlie, your playable character, let's call him just size 0. In order to possess a size 3, you have to get a size 1 and a size 2 and stack them on top of one another in order to take over the size 3 one. And that can be a little frustrating, especially if you know the solution, but there's very limited of the intermediary sizes. To just have to go around and try to hunt them down. I found that very annoying, actually.
Yeah. hunting down dolls, hunting down sometimes specific dolls, or like you said, sometimes areas. It's like, okay, I know exactly how to solve this puzzle, but I can't find like the specific doll to solve it, or I can't find the correct size. I should say the specific doll. There are multiple ways to solve every puzzle in the game except for the final one.
I would say the final two areas, because there's one. Well, it's around, what was it? 5 worlds, 4 or 5 levels.
There's the train station, which
it's kind of the hub world.
Yeah, and you have to solve multiple puzzles in that one as you progress through. There's the cruise ship, there's the airship, and then there's the big train, which is like the final, quote, level. And then you have whatever that boss arena thing is. Yeah.
Yeah, which technically could be a level. The final one, the boss arena, it kind of throws a lot of the premises of the game out the window, and it makes it so that the multiple solutions and finding fun ways to do it. Nope, gotta do it exactly how we say. Nope. And even on the train tank thing, there's a couple areas that you have to do in a very specific way, and there's a hell of a lot of backtracking, and it felt more like padding. And whenever I say this is a Double Fine game, I say that in that it's a very interesting premise. It has some neat ideas, but it's simultaneously very short, but also overstays its welcome. In that, yes, it's kind of cool what they were doing with it, but at the same time, they didn't really expand on that until the last area, and the last area was clunky as fuck. What they introduced was the combo ability, where having 2 dolls that had complementary abilities, stacking on top of one another, using one, then unstacking and using the other, did something different. Like they showed it off with a ice sculpture, actually. So having one that did a freezing ability and one that has water, it allowed them to make ice to redo this ice sculpture, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, that's how they or how they show it off.
Yeah, but it's just done so clunkily because the game is not very precise in what it does. And whenever there's a area that requires precision, let's pick one almost at random. How about the boss arena, where you had to extinguish those flames with one of the Blackmores, Charlie's family, and you had to do it in 3 times, and it took me quite a while a lot longer than it needed to do that, because it would latch onto the wrong one, and it was a very small window of time to be able to do the combo ability to get to the Baron, the big bad, to make him destack. It just frustrated me.
Yeah.
I was ready for the game to be over before we even got to the final level, to be perfectly honest.
I agree. The whole game takes, if you just play through to complete the story, you get through it in between 2 and 3 hours. There are, like we said, there's multiple ways to solve the different puzzles. If you wanted to go for like 100% completion run on all of those and finding all the unique things and everything, for me personally, that's probably like 8 hours of time spent.
Yeah, but that's also another Double Fine thing, where a lot of the side stuff feels just like padding and doesn't really add to anything. Finding all the individual unique dolls neat, but doesn't really add anything. Finding all the different solutions doesn't really add anything outside of your secret hideout.
Yeah, there's these things they have called hijinks, which doesn't go for just the special, unique dolls. You know, there's like a kid that farts, and it's like you fart on 10 people or whatever, and you get, you know, a hijink like metal, and then the thing that shows up at your secret hideout, which I do think that secret hideout is pretty cool. There was
another one that was a photographer. If you take photos of enough different dolls, you got a hijink done. Crashing the bike somehow gives you a hijink, which I didn't really figure it out.
Crashing the bike on the cruise ship?
Yeah.
I did that.
I didn't figure it out.
That's how I solved the safari puzzle.
I'll see. I didn't crash the bike. I just used the cannon. Because the cannon was the obvious one. I was already to that point where, I'm pretty much ready for this to be done. Let's just do this as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I crashed the bike. There's like the big, I don't know, like diorama or not diorama, but like the painting for the scenery. And like you push it over and then the bike crashes through it. But if you jump on the bike and crash through it yourself, you get the hijink for crashing the bike.
Okay.
But
yeah, it's just, it's kind of weird. There's a lot here, but I think it's just the fact that there's a lot here, but there's not much of substance for the actual story or really. Well, you were talking before we started recording how it felt like there wasn't really a theme to it, even though they started to go down a kind of a family working together or underdog story, but they never really committed to it.
Yeah, this game is set, I would say, roughly in like the middle of the 19th century.
I would say early, I would say early 20th century, just with all the coal fire, all these kind of steampunk, but also the child labor.
Yeah, I mean it's set somewhere in the industrial era of
industrial revolution.
Yeah, and you play a family of chimney sweeps. Or well, you play as Charlie, who is the smallest child in a family of chimney sweeps. And the game just doesn't, like, anyone who's listened to me talk about these before, like, I will find interesting themes and threads and pull on them and discuss them in part of this. And there's been several where you were like, oh, I didn't even think about that, like, just because of the way that I kind of approach it. But
like Donut County was a good example of that, actually.
Yeah, but I spent probably an hour really, like, sitting and thinking, like, or, like, laying in bed, like, before, I fell asleep or something for the last few days, like...
jerking off slightly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm basically always jerking off. But anyways, laying in bed thinking about it, like, what was, like, the theme of this? What was the meaning? And it's like,
more
child
like,
labor equals bad, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's pretty obvious, but we know that. We're well beyond that point in history. And it's so prominent for so long, it doesn't feel like that's sort of just an undercurrent of the era. And it's like, well, pollution is bad. I mean, we know that. We get that. That was, and that, I don't know if you really spent much time talking to a lot of the industrial type characters, but they're all like, oh, yes, the government can't tell me not to pollute.
Yeah. I mean, just kind of over the top, huh?
Yeah, but again, it's like, well, that doesn't really feel like much of a theme or much of a point to the game itself. And then towards the end, like, you get this thing where it's like, once you free all of your family members on the train at the end, in order to sort of solve that level, the final puzzle, it's like, we all have to work together as a family. And so you stack your entire family together, and then each of them uses their ability to, like, get to sort of the next part.
I mean, that was kind of neat, but then they kind of threw it out with the next boss arena. It would make sense if they continued that and you just used your family members to solve the puzzle. But you had to use the other dolls in the area kind of in combination with your family members, one or multiple family members, depending on what the puzzle was. And it's like, okay, I mean, this is just the rest of the puzzle solving mechanics, but now you have your family members. And they throw out the fact that there's multiple solutions, and now it's just this very linear puzzle solving. And the fact that that final boss battle with the rock, paper, scissors, what the fuck?
Yeah, I was like, is this rock, paper, scissors? It is. Oh, okay. And if you had only had to do it one time or maybe twice, that would be okay. But you have to beat him 4 times. And you can't lose, because even if he knocks you into the pit, all of the little orphan kids are like, it's okay, Charlie, go get him. I don't think you can lose. And then after you throw him in the pit 4 times, those kids eat him? I think they eat him. Like, he disappears, and all that's left is his hat.
Well, you have heard the phrase, eat the rich.
That is true. That is true. That's another thing that I thought, like, you know, is this game trying to say something about wealth inequality? And maybe, but if it is, it doesn't, just like everything else, it doesn't do a good job really promoting it or making that a central theme. And then you mentioned, like, the underdog story. As, like, the little kid, you're kind of always the underdog throughout the whole game, but it doesn't do anything to really play that up. You get sort of a classic, like, cartoonish bad guy, like, he's just a kid, how did you let him beat you? And then that's it. They don't really seem to care that you're a kid anymore after that one moment. So,
then they put all the posters of you, like, instantaneously.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter because you can just immediately stack to a size 1 doll and just walk right past everyone.
Yeah. Games don't have to have, like, these grand meanings, but this game feels like it's trying to say something, and it just doesn't, or maybe it gets distracted by trying to say too many things, and it does a bad job delivering on anything. I mean, you know, like you said, it's a neat idea that is poorly executed and doesn't go deep enough.
Also known as a Double Fine game.
And we're bitching a lot. I didn't hate this game. Like, if I was gonna, like, give it, like, a grade, kind of like I did when I was talking about the movies last week, it's like a solid, like, C.
I would give it a solid meh.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, like, a broken game. I had a weird technical issue that I don't know why. I think it just maybe didn't like part of my hardware configuration or something.
I think it's just the fact also that it's old.
Or that it's old, yeah.
Because it defaulted to something between 720p and 1080p for me. But I didn't have an issue going full screen 1080p. You did, though.
Yeah, mine defaulted to 720p, and it would lock up every time I tried to change it to 1080p and crash. And after a couple of attempts, I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'll just play it in 720p. It's fine. The game itself looks good because they made the right choice of going with an interesting art style. So it holds up even though it's quite old. Everything is very cutesy. Get this kind of steampunky aesthetic to a lot of stuff. But they're dolls, and a lot of them are kind of, you know, cartoonish and cute. Or, you know, funny. So it all works. And then they do this neat effect. I mean, it's just sort of a little bit of a film grain and sepia with... what's the black border around?
I don't know the technical term for it.
I mean, it looks a little, it makes it look like an old-timey movie. And that's nice. I mean, you can turn it off if you don't like it. I played the game a little bit with it on and a little bit with it off to compare. I prefer it with the film grain effect on. I think it really helps the aesthetic.
Especially since it kind of plays out almost like an old silent movie.
Yeah, vignette. I didn't look it up, like it just popped into my head, but that's what that is, the vignette. Which is like it's a circle and there's black around the edge of the circle. I guess it's more of an oval since it's a widescreen game.
Yeah. Which in the cutscenes, it does feel like almost a Charlie Chaplin-esque movie.
Yeah, because there's no spoken dialogue, and then you get this really charming soundtrack that feels very 1920s. And then you read the story, like there's a little bit of action, then it'll pop up whatever the characters were saying. That's cool. I like that. It feels like a play at times because there's certain things that have a very cardboardy aesthetic to it in the levels. You know, it feels kind of like a high school set design, and they made a bunch of stuff out of cardboard because they couldn't afford, wood or whatever.
Yeah. Well, also a lot of the world is built around just like everyday objects, playing cards, push pins, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which makes it almost feel a little dystopian as well. Kind of a discarded humanity.
Yeah. I didn't think of it that way.
or almost a Toy Story ask what happens behind the scenes. But yeah, once again, it's kind of thrown away. They don't really want to commit to any theme or anything. They just I mean, to be fair, once again, this was 2011. 9 years ago. Oh fuck, it was 9 years ago.
I think with that time in indie games too, like just having like an interesting, cute aesthetic and a unique mechanic or two was enough.
Maybe this is the Half-Life issue where it was interesting and maybe even groundbreaking for its time. But looking at it from the lens of today, back through a very, very rich indie scene now, it seems kind of meh.
Yeah. It hasn't held up under scrutiny, I suppose, is the way to say that. I mean, like I said, it's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad.
Yeah, I would say it's not good, but it's not bad. It's meh.
It's certainly got some charm to it, and if that charm hooks you a lot more than it did us, it might be a completely different experience for you.
I would say do not play it straight through. Break it up into the levels. Every time you go back to the train station, take a break from it, because it gets very repetitive. Because, like I said, up until that last, I would say, half an hour, it's essentially the same mechanic over and over again.
Yeah, I actually did it in 3 sittings. I did through the cruise ship level, and then I did the airship, and then the bits on the train station in between, and then that final level and the final boss fight I did as 1 sitting.
Yeah, for me, I did it pretty much all in 1 sitting. I had a break for dinner, but that was about it. But even then, that was, just a short break.
Yeah. I feel like I'm missing something, like on the levels. I mean, it doesn't really matter all that much, but I just feel like I'm missing something when I talk about it.
Yeah, I think that there is a level we're forgetting.
Cruise ship. The airship.
Maybe it's just the fact that the train station gets used several times.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, there was a couple times that the objective of a puzzle wasn't very clear. Like whenever you had to sort the lines.
Yeah.
On one of the returns, they just said, sort them by size. Okay, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
That was the one puzzle I did look up, and then I did all the different solutions, and none of them felt really good.
I didn't look it up. What I did was I just took and separated each of the sizes into their own lines. And I guess once I had done enough of that, it gave it to me, because I didn't finish, but it was like, yes, the lines are perfect. You can come get your ticket now.
Yeah, what it was the biggest had to go in the middle, then the next smallest go in the tube beside that, and the smallest go in the outside lines. What was kind of funny was there was one that if you farted on them or punched them, I can't remember which. There was one that if you farted in the area, it would clear the area, and then you could use one of the union guys to organize. That was kind of cute.
Oh, that's nice.
But then there was one that if you punched them, they would stop dicking around and go to the proper line.
Well,
but that does kind of show you the difference in design philosophy for the different solutions. There's the manual. There's using the game mechanics for how they're kind of creatively, and then there's just brute force.
Yeah, because I mean those are creative, a couple of creative solutions to that problem, or you can just manually sort everyone into the lines and it's equally as valid. Which I do like. I think that's nice. I liked the different ways that you could solve on the cruise ship, the maps.
Yeah.
It's like you can go watch the maps off of the wall, Or you can get the kid that's seasick and have him puke on the wall.
Yeah, I just watched the maps and was done with it.
But there's also a DLC for it.
Yeah, I didn't bother with it.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah, pretty much by the time I was done with the main story, I was done with the game. I really didn't want to play anymore.
Yeah, I finished the boss fight and then immediately uninstalled it.
I didn't immediately uninstall, but...
Well, I mean, I watched the ending stuff and then I uninstalled it. Free up that valuable space.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, kind of like we were saying earlier, it's okay. If you find it charming, then sure, pick it up and enjoy it. But if you don't, I'm not sure I could really recommend this at this point. There's just so many indie games that have come since that have done it better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's fair to say that this game hasn't held up well. It just hasn't done anything that's really been able to say that, this is worth going out of your way for.
Yeah.
I think this is the worst one we've done this year.
Yes, it is, but we've only done 2 this year so far, so, Although I have to say, if this winds up being the worst one we do all year, it'll be a pretty good year.
True. I'll take a year that has a meh over some of the things we've played the last couple years.
Indeed.
Yeah, fucking Battletech, right?
Yeah, fuck that piece of shit. It's hot garbage. Who would play that for... Hold, please.
Try and decode the scientific notation.
No, I have to find it in my... It's mixed up. Here we go, Battletech. Yeah, what kind of asshole would play that game for 629 hours?
Someone that needs to play it for just a few more hours and never touch it again?
Someone who needs to play it, yeah. Get it up to 666 for Satan.
Yeah. It's kind of funny as the church near me doesn't seem to believe in leap days, though. Their sound is still wrong. Just throwing that one out there. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, is there really anything more to say about stacking at this point?
Nope. I was about to remind everyone what the Game Club for March is, which is Outer Worlds.
Yeah, which is the reason why we're pushing the Game Club back a week to give it proper time. And the reason why it was a March game to begin with was that it was going to be a long month.
Yep, March has 5 Tuesdays in it, so we were going to have 5 weeks to play Outer Worlds. And we're still going to give ourselves 5 weeks to play Outer Worlds. We are going to discuss it, as long as nothing happens, on April 7th.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and throw out the April Game Club, and we'll have to figure out the May one because we have a hole in our schedule.
Yeah.
We're going back to the Fault series and going to Fault Milestone 2, another visual novel.
Looking forward to that. Big fan of the first one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It is a shorter visual novel, so that's the reason why that's there. To give us a break after something major like The Outer Worlds.
Yes, sir. Gonna kick back in my recliner and play that one on the my Media Center PC.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna get the Steam Link up and running and play it in the living room. Maybe. We'll see. Because I have all the pieces together for it again.
There you go.
Some of the AC adapter was kind of put in the wrong box. So, yeah, that was fun to find.
But you did. Problem solved. But Bethesda's problem with Fallout 76, something, I don't know, I tried, fuck it. Bethesda was, quote, surprised how few people wanted to take part in PvP, end quote, in Fallout 76. There's honestly not...
Bethesda, right?
Yeah. There's honestly not a lot here other than, oh, Bethesda. You idiots.
Well, Here's the thing I don't get. We're obviously in news now. We're finished up with Game Club. Right. Bethesda doesn't seem to know what they want to do with Fallout 76 at all. They wanted to make a Fallout game, then took out all the things that made Fallout. They wanted to make a survival game, but then put the survival aspects in it. They wanted to make an online game, but then they did their usual fuckery and have it be completely broken if you know how to, how to get to the dev room. The fact that they put in the dev room like they have in every single other one of their games, where it has all the items and people were able to break into it. You idiots.
I mean, I know exactly what they're doing with it, but what they're doing has led to them having no clear vision for the game. They just want money. They want to chase that live service holy grail, and in doing so, they keep following trends and fads. Yeah, trends and fads around to try and do whatever's going to make them
you just can't be cool and just combine two words and make it trads.
I could. That's called a portmanteau. When you combine two words. Thank you. But what they've done is ignore up until potentially, what is it, April something, when that update is supposed to release that makes Fallout 76 almost a Fallout game.
Yeah, let's be honest. It's going to break the game even more. Only thing I look forward to for this update. Now, I should be upfront here. I have a little bit of an extra dislike for it for Fallout 76 because it takes my home state some of the folklore about it and some of the stories and completely shits on them with an absolutely shitty game. But there's some people here that just cling to it because, whoa, West Virginia, country roads, woo! Woo! But it just seems like the only thing I'm looking forward to the Wastelanders update is just how fucking incompetent they're going to be with that one. Because they weren't even able to put in their shitty paid subscription model. They were able to implement that without completely breaking the game and actively hurting the people that were buying into this $100 a year subscription to pay to play for the extra benefits that they asked for and this steaming pile of shit of a game. What the fuck, Bethesda? The Wastelanders update, I'll be shocked if it's not a complete disaster.
Yeah. All anybody wanted out of a Fallout online game, it was co-op Fallout. And yes, not to say that there weren't people who wouldn't have appreciated PvP, but they are a huge minority in terms of players.
Yeah, I would say the Venn diagram of the people that wanted co-op in Fallout, fair overlap. People that wanted full-on PvP shooter in Fallout, with how Bethesda handles shooters, very, very narrow, I would think.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing I don't understand, okay? The gunplay in Fallout, I should preface this in, I haven't played Fallout 4. I have no interest in Fallout 4. What they had in Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, with a lot of very small enemies randomly moving around to kind of make you lean on VATS every so often. That didn't scream to me. This would be really good if I had someone screaming obscenities and racist tirades into the microphone right now while I try to shoot this NPC.
The combat in Fallout 4 is better than Fallout 3. Fallout 3 in New Vegas, the way that it handles just straight up like the first person combat. You don't have to use VATS as much.
Yeah, but then they dialed back all the RPG elements.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to rely on VATS. You can still use it. It can certainly be helpful. But, I mean, I've played Fallout 4 quite a bit, and the amount I use VATS in Fallout 4 compared to Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas is maybe 10% of that total, in comparison. But it's not great. And then when you introduce the lag and other issues that comes up with it being an online game,
Don't forget
then it falls apart again.
And then the hackers, let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, getting back all the way around to the actual story. So they were surprised how few wanted to take part in PvP. Well, here's the thing about Bethesda's piece of shit PvP. They actively went out of their way to discourage PvP in a survival game. They actively said that if you did not want to take part in PvP, you don't have to. And made it very difficult for PvPers to actually do so, attack other players without mutual consent, without all the random hacking and stuff going on. So the fact that Bethesda's surprised that more people didn't want to take part in PvP when, one, they made it difficult for PvPers to actually be able to play the game, so they went off to other games. Two, they made the game so fucking imbalanced. Three, they have had countless hacking problems and countless exploits going on in the game that I can't even keep a running list. If they're surprised that people didn't want to take part in their crappy Battle Royale cash grab mode, really? Either somebody has a very high opinion of themselves and we're shooting for the moon thinking, oh, we'll put in Battle Royale and be done with it. Or, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure if this is just a Battle Royale or just PvP in general, because it does seem like it's kind of combining the two as well. But, Bethesda.
Yeah. The specific quote that I want to leave with this is that in this article, going through talking about stuff, then there's a big quote from Pete Hines, and I'm gonna jump in on the middle of it. So he says, for example, I think we were a little surprised how few people wanted to take part in PvP and how many more were interested in just PvE together, as opposed to I want to test my mettle against you and let's get into a duel. There's some folks who do, don't get me wrong, but I think it's a much smaller percentage of our player base than what we thought.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I just can't fathom. I mean, I get it. They didn't care. They didn't listen to their audience. They were just trying to make money using the Fallout property. But they didn't consider that the majority of their audience didn't want that. If you're going to do multiplayer Fallout or multiplayer Elder Scrolls, people just want to hang out together, do questing together, and explore the world together for the most part.
Well, it's not even just that. It's the fact that PvP, from everything that I've read in Fallout 76, is essentially pointless. Because you just lose junk, you don't lose your gear, you respawn nearby, so you don't really lose time, and you're able to run away faster than somebody actively shooting at you. So, of course not a lot of people are going to take part in PvP, because it's just, at the end of the day, unless there's something I've missed or something that I've not read, utterly and completely pointless.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So, moving on to something that isn't pointless and something that's actually kind of interesting.
Indeed. GoG expands their refund policy to 30 days.
Yeah, this was kind of out of nowhere. I mean, even the developers didn't get wind of this, which, okay, maybe that was a bad on GoG's part, because maybe they should have talked about this to their developers, or at least the big ones that are on their platform. But this is really, really consumer friendly, and it's hard to really find fault in this unless you're looking at it in a very, developer focused, publisher focused way. So they expanded their refund policy to 30 days, including if you download the game, if you played the game, if you, pretty much, as far as I could tell, no play limit like Steam has, where if you played it for 2 hours, you're no longer eligible for at least an automated refund. You can sometimes get a escalation on your ticket and get a refund even beyond that, but it's the exception, not the rule. It's pretty much 30 days and you're good to go. It's not automated. You still have to go through the support. And they are putting in a case-by-case business and reserving the right to refuse individual cases. But they're also asking, please respect this and don't abuse it. It's interesting. It's and very pro-consumer. It's hard to, like I said, feel bad about this. And I think the people that are on GOG are going to be the type that are less likely to really abuse this type of system, where most things on there are DRM free already. It's very easy to say, this is mine now.
Yeah. They we went and we looked, and I didn't think to pull it up. Essentially, they did say that there's no limits as long as it's within 30 days, case by case basis. They don't want you to abuse it, and they reserve the right to refuse you refunds if you've had if it appears as if you're attempting to abuse the system. But otherwise, I mean, this is by far the most consumer-friendly digital refund policy in existence. Like, it blows everything else out of the water that does exist, especially. And the thing is that because it's based purely on date since purchase, like any other product that you can buy, as long as you don't, like with a physical product, as long as you don't like destroy it or something, like you can return it. And sometimes, depending on what the product is, even if it gets damaged, you can still return it within, it varies by area, but in most places in the United States, at least, it's within 90 days with a receipt. As long as you do it within that time frame, you can get your money back. And it's the same thing here, except it's a digital good. So you can't lose it. You can't destroy it. I mean, it can be broken, but not by you. Even if you're modding something and you mess it up, worst comes to worst, you uninstall and reinstall sort of a blank slate. So just a flat out, like, you can get a refund for this digital item is great. And there could be, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere like Australia or somewhere in the EU has this type of policy forced by the government or some other type of governing body. But we live in America where there's no such thing as pro-consumer business policies. So this is
consumers don't have a lobbyist.
Yeah.
Boy, that I just made you sad, didn't I?
Yeah, I'm already sad. It's Super Tuesday.
Yeah.
But it is nice to see GOG doing that. I don't want this. I'm the cynic in me says that they're doing this because of the recent, as in like the last couple of months, publicity they've had for how much crunch time they make their devs do on their major releases like The Witcher. Because, GOG is owned by CD Projekt Red.
Well, CD Projekt Red is their developer branch.
Right. You're right. My apologies. I tend to kind of lump that together into one thing when I talk about it. But you're right. They are separate. But they're all under the same umbrella, we'll say. And so this, the cynic in me says this is just good publicity. But even if that's the case, I mean, I'm not going to complain about the good that they do. I'm also not going to ignore any potential future bad. But it's nice to see this. I don't expect anybody to, but I hope other big distributors follow suit in some way. But we shall see.
Well, what's also nice is they're saying if your area, provides additional rights, just let us know and we'll respect regional law. Hey, how about that?
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, it's number 8. What if my country provides additional rights? Just let us know and we'll respect regional law. To learn more, see sections 7.1 and 7.2 of the GOG user agreement. Considering we've seen EA say, hey, contact your local politicians in Belgium to get your loot boxes back. Yeah, kind of nice, huh?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's actually... there's not a lot to say here outside of way to go GOG, because it's kind of feels odd, doesn't, to have a positive story. To have, it feels like there's really no strings attached. There's, no gotcha moment. There's no bullshit. It's just, hey, we're expanding our refund policy to 30 days. Now, I will say that this may make some developers a little hesitant on going on GOG, but GOG's already a DRM-free site. So, they're already risking piracy because of it. And GOG's refund policy was already fairly decent. I think it was similar to Steam's policy of 2 weeks.
I think so, although I think they already didn't have...
Yeah,
they had a much more relaxed playtime.
Well,
they with Steam, it's 2 hours. I think they had.
Well, they didn't really have a way to monitor playtime. They have GOG Galaxy, but that's not a requirement to download things from GOG. Yeah. So they didn't really have a way to be able to tell. So I think they didn't have a playtime requirement at all, if memory serves correctly. If I'm wrong on that, please forgive me on that one. But it's... I do see the point that developers may be a little bit more hesitant, or I should say publishers may be a little bit more hesitant to use GOG, but the people that are on there already, it's not exactly more than what they already offered. Now there is the thing where they didn't let the publishers know ahead of time, and the publishers found out at the same time the public did. Okay, that's a little shitty. But that's really one little thing outside of a massive benefit for the consumer. So it's hard to really feel bad about that one.
Yeah. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with that statement that you just made. Just in big top-down view, this is a good thing that I hope more companies do. I don't expect them to, especially in America.
I have a feeling this would have had the Total Biscuit stamp of approval.
I think so too. So, moving on to something that would not have had the Total Biscuit stamp of approval.
No, this would have the Total Biscuit glare of disdain.
The Borderlands 2 update, which is advertising Borderlands 3, broke the game.
Yep. If it isn't Bethesda or Ubisoft or EA being shit, it's Gearbox. So, yeah. So, they released an update February 27th to Borderlands 2, essentially saying, hey, Vault Hunter, welcome to Borderlands 2. You may have noticed we've changed some things around here. Before we continue our adventure, let's quickly explain what's different. In order to create a more centralized multiplayer experience and support play across multiple PC platforms, matchmaking will now be powered by Shift. Please, you will need to create a Shift display name that will identify you in-game. And for quite a while, it was actually broken. I'm not sure if they actually fixed it yet. There's no update to this, but there's some people that are saying that they were having trouble completing this action. There's some that are saying that the game is just unplayable because Shift isn't working. There's some this update also broke all the mods and introduced intrusive Borderlands 3's ads into the main menu. It's just, what the fuck, the Gearbox, right?
Yeah, they're shitty and they suck. I don't know. I do know why. Again, it's money. They want to try and get more money.
Well, they recently are coming up, or I'm assuming they're planning on coming off their Borderlands 3 exclusivity deal and bring it to Steam before too long. So,
let's see what pulls up when I search Borderlands 3. Planned release date March 13th for Borderlands 3 on Steam.
Well, there you go, right?
Yep.
I had absolutely no care for it. It has, right?
I'm interested in playing it, but if it comes to like Game Pass, that's where I'll play it.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to buy it.
If it comes to a very, 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 very steep discount, okay. But I think the problem with the Borderlands franchise, outside of the fact that I got burnt out as fuck on Borderlands 2, is just the fact that it feels very samey. It's the same. Oh, ha ha ha! Here's the same. Here's the internet memes that you've seen for the last few years. They throw in essentially the same characters. Pretty much generic stereotypes.
Yeah, different versions of the same trope.
Yeah. They throw in just bigger and bigger bullet sponges, and at least as far as I played, if there's a boss battle, it's going to be there's a very small weak spot, and then it's just going to be bullet sponge the rest of the time. And it just got old. And I just have no interest in playing the third one. I will say that the second one had one of the best DLCs I've ever played, but to really make it make sense, you have to slog through Borderlands 2.
Which one? The Tiny Tina one?
Yeah, the Tiny Tina one. But in order for it to really make sense, you need to play probably about 2/3 of the main game. So, yeah.
Or read Wikipedia.
Yeah, read spoilers, but then you're losing some of the impact. At least in my opinion. It's just...
This is a really shitty story.
Yeah.
We should have probably rearranged these and ended with GOG. Oh well.
Yeah, well, we had a nice creamy center of a gooey good story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just... I really hate games that do this advertising of their sequels on the previous games as already. Especially whenever they update and then break things after the fact.
Yeah. Fuck you, Gearbox.
Yeah, it looks like Shift just wasn't working at all for quite a while. And the update break mods and introduced the intrusive Borderlands 3 adds to the main menu. That's what really ticked off players.
That's the thing that gets me the most, I think.
What, the breaking of mods?
No, the ads.
Yeah.
I mean, all of it sucks. I'm not saying that any part of it's good, but the ads feel like the worst thing to me. It's like, fuck you. I know your other game exists.
Yeah, there's some people that are saying that there's some just performance issues that they introduced. Like, well, they broke something behind the scenes and they have no idea what.
Yeah.
Some people are claiming Mac, PC, plus Linux crossplay is broken after the latest patch. I mean, it's just... Let's just put it this way. If you go to the Borderlands 2 Steam page, there's a massive downvote.
Yeah.
Which, that's really the only way to get attention at times, is just, just dogpile downvotes.
Although it's still listed as mostly positive and overwhelmingly positive.
Because people jumped on to try to counteract it. I mean, just look at this uptick on votes there, huh?
Yeah.
Basically, people defend Borderlands to death because, they find it fun. So, that is it for that.
Indeed. My brain had a split. It went like 3 directions at once, and it just was like, nah, fuck you.
None of them were funny.
None of them were funny, and one of them was something you had already talked about. Oh, my poor brain.
Yeah, and I don't think we had any mail. I was running a little late, so I didn't check. No, we didn't. We didn't have any tweets. So if you wish to contact us, vglpodcast@gmail.com with your with your comments, or you just tweet them at VGL Podcast on the Twitter. So do you feel a doobly doo?
Yeah, we can run through the queue. That doesn't take too much attention or energy most of the time.
Yeah, or effort. So how about I got one immediately that will pique your interest, and you didn't clear the list. Let me just make sure I copied the list. Hang on.
Don't mistake.
Don't clear it just yet. Let me make sure I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it. Okay. Clear the list.
Will do.
And I got something that's more your speed. I have no problem with this type of game either. So, OshiRabu, Waifus over Husbandos. A Yuri visual novel, where a girl is chasing down a girl that she falls in love with. And if the Steam community is believed, some rather hefty nudity as well. So there you go, right?
I like hefty nudity.
A series of misunderstandings leads to a proposal, and Reen starts to a full-on pursuit of Aku. One thing leads to another, and in order to bring her husbando home, she ends up bringing Ren home. And now they're sharing a house and a bed. Oh my, right?
Oh my.
I actually don't know the length of this game. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's that long of a game, but right?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like a cutesy, kind of funny, a little sexy visual novel.
Well, I got one that's also right up my alley. Max Gentleman Sexy Business. The premier Victorian business tycoon and dating simulator. Your family business has been stolen from you. Forge sexy partnerships in the sheets while crushing rival companies in the streets to become England's largest monopoly and reclaim your family honor. I'm in for that.
Okay, well, how about some Kingdom Under Fire, the Crusaders, the cult heavy metal fantasy action strategy gem comes to PC in HD.
All right.
I mean, it is really over the top. It's a lot of fun. It's sort of a Dynasty Warriors-esque, only with a little bit more fantasy setting. So there you go, right?
Indeed. I need to copy this. I've got my next one. Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Ooh, you got a good one.
Yeah, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, I think, has been out for a while. And I'm assuming this is part of Microsoft bringing more games, making them available on Steam. But I mean, Ori and the Will of the Wisps is the sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest, which is a 2D side-scrolling platformer game with a gorgeous art style. I have played the first one. I have not played this one. So let's see. This says releasing March 11th, 2020, but I don't know if that's when it comes to Steam. Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
I think that's the new one. So
no, you're right. Yep, you're right. This is the new one. I've heard about this from a couple of years ago. Maybe it was like a demo or something at like E3 that I'm just blanking like on the specific.
I think it was only really announced fairly recently. So maybe you're Ori and the Blind Forest. Maybe
I'm thinking of like maybe there was a DLC or an expansion or something, and another campaign mode that I'm thinking of. But yeah, Ori, it's very cute. It's a confident side-scrolling platformer game. Not something that I'm typically super interested in, but the art style and the theme I can go with. So fun.
So I got another visual novel. Marco and the Galaxy Dragon. Marco, an orphan with missing memories. Arco, a dragon who rules the galaxy. We're hunting for treasure in space. It looks like it's a sequel to another visual novel that looks like it's fairly short. So overall, it's not a huge investment in time. Fairly cheap on the visual novels front. So if you're looking for an interesting visual novel with a dragon, because of course, why not, right?
Indeed. So I got One Punch Man, a hero nobody knows.
That's an interesting one. I've seen a bit about it. It's a fairly typical anime fighting game, unless you put Saitama on your team. It's use the 3-1-3 tag mechanic. Mm-hmm. Well, if you put Saitama on your team, One Punch Man, instead you basically have to survive until he gets there, and then you win. He one-hit KOs everyone.
Which is a really neat mechanic I like, because it would feel weird if One Punch Man couldn't actually win in one punch.
Well, they do have a secondary version of... you remember the end of the first episode where he had the dream?
Yeah.
They have Dream Saitama, where he's actually balanced.
Yeah, but I don't... As a player, I don't want that. I want way OP Saitama.
So, I got a quick one. Mega Man Zero XZ Legacy Collection. So, more Mega Man Retro coming to Steam. Looks like there's some issues with it. It looks like some of them are broken. If you go to full screen resolution settings, it will brick your game, deleting save. So, this may be just a warning and a void for now, but it's something to keep an eye out for if you're a Mega Man fan to check out later, perhaps. So, you got one?
Yep, Beautiful Desolation. This reminds me very much of Wasteland. It's a top-down, isometric CRPG set in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Feels very much like Wasteland or classic Fallout, both in how the screenshots make it look and just sort of the type of game that it is. So, that looks pretty cool.
Ooh, this would be one that's kind of up your alley. Iris and the Giant. Iris the Giant is a fusion CCG RPG roguelite. You play as Iris, who must brave her fears in her imaginary world, dive into melancholic and gripping adventures filled with cute monsters and buried memories, ready to face your inner demons. So, sort of a travel of the mind, perhaps, with some CCG tactical battles. Interesting, with some deck building as well. So, sort of Slay the Spire-esque, perhaps.
Gotcha.
Damn, I just got One Punch Man. It was late in my queue.
I've gone through a couple and haven't really gotten anything noteworthy.
I got another one. Beautiful Desolation. A 2D isometric adventure set in the distant future. Explore a post-apocalyptic landscape, solve puzzles, and meet friends and make powerful enemies. Mediate conflicts and fight for your life as you unravel the secrets of the world around you. It feels like an updated sort of old school Fallout.
Yeah, that was the one that I had. The last one that I mentioned was Beautiful Desolation.
Oh, I didn't. Just blanked on the name. Then sorry.
It's okay.
I'll take it off my queue. Since you said Wasteland, I looked at this and saw Fallout.
Yeah. So I got one, Venture Seas. You'll know why I picked this, so when I read the first few words. A kinky strategic adventure game where you can manage a fantasy trade ship and your rowdy crew. Experience a buoyant story supported by ambitious gameplay systems, sexual content, and expansive modding features.
Well, damn. That's
there are tits and dicks in the store page. Maybe I should remove that link. I didn't look at all the pictures before I put the link.
Well, tits and dicks on the same character.
indeed. I'm gonna remove that. Not the name. I'll leave the name. I'll remove the link. Venture Seas.
So
really big tits.
Yeah.
And a big dick.
Yeah, just how do you have enough blood to run both of those? Oh, I still had copied yours, not mine. Invasion Machine. Let me fix that. Invasion Machine. Modern warfare RTS sandbox game inspired by the real conflicts in the Middle East. Fight a counterinsurgency war, protect the civilian population. I clicked. Get your wounded out, decide how the world sees your struggle, and remember, no one gets left behind. So a sort of a sandbox RTS. Interesting, huh? It's in early access, so gotta take this with a bit of a grain of salt. And they're more of everything, but the core gameplay will remain the same. They're targeting Q2 2021, so long development cycle. I would expect it to probably stretch into 2022 because why the hell not at this point? But interesting premise and some promise if it handles well. This looks like the first game at least on Steam, so interesting.
So I'm of two minds about this. I guess since I'm going to talk about it, I'll put it. Cuisine Royale. At first I thought, oh, like a silly battle royale like food game. But no, it's just what looks more like a PUBG.
Yeah, this was given away ages ago when I got a hold of it. I never really played it. But yeah, it's pretty much just a PUBG clone, at least it used to be. They've added a hell of a lot of DLC though.
But I mean, it seems like it would be fun, like do like a silly food-themed battle royale. Like I could get behind that, you know. But it's just PUBG, but with a few characters that have silly models or partial nudity,
and a hell of a lot of DLC.
Yeah.
So
Cuisine Royale is the last one on my queue.
Yeah, I got a couple more. I got Heaven's Dust, or Heaven Dust. When you awake, you find yourself in a mansion where was the secret research center now is a maze full of horrible zombies and deadly traps. So survival horror. I mean, there has some Chinese kanji in the title, so there's a little bit of English, but not much. At least, it's enough to at least understand what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah,
but could be interesting. Let's see. That was one that you talked about last week, so I'll skip that. And what the hell? So this is interesting looking. This is a early access game. Blackthorn Arena. At first, I thought it was kind of a generic, just arena, fighter. But it's a strategy management sim with real-time combat on top of it, set in a fantasy world. So you're also managing your gladiators and have some sort of sim elements under it as well. Trying to build sort of a Gladia.
Mm-hmm.
The Roman gladiatorial manager from, what was it, a couple of years ago now? Domicia or something. Oh, I'm blanking on it. I don't have Steam loaded right now.
I don't. I'm drawing a blank as well.
But you know what I'm talking about. It was the low poly, 4-bit, where you were building up your gladiatorial regiment, essentially.
Yeah, I remember that game.
Yeah, this feels a bit like that, only 3D in a fantasy world, but also it looks like they have some more deep management going on as well, but you're also able to more easily take direct control of combat. which could be positive or negative depending on just how much are you basically able to get past the managerial or the requirement to build up stats. They are expecting it to be a short early access. The game is almost complete. The rest of the work will be improving gameplay and a few contents while they debug and balance it. So they're planning on doing all the way up to 4K resolutions. Interesting.
It looks interesting.
Yeah,
I would. Be
like I said, I
really
clicked off of it and then I took a closer look at it. Kind of interesting. So that was my cue, and that is me done.
Sweet.
So,
well, with you done and me done, the Rage, why don't you hit him with those socials?
Well, I've been Caffeine Rage. You can find me over on the YouTubes maybe someday again, Gaming with Caffeine Rage. You can find me on Twitter, Gaming with CR, or you can be my friend on Steam. The Caffeine Rage over there as well. And you've been?
Gaming Psychologist. You can find me on the YouTubes by searching for Gaming Psychologist, on Twitter at JMA4707, or on Steam by sending a friend request to JArthur4707.
And if you wish to know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from, the password for this week is Sleepy Boy. Sleepy Boy. I couldn't think of a good one for this week, and I didn't want to just grab a random one.
But that perfectly describes me right now, Sleepy Boy.
Yep, Sleepy Boy. So I guess that means I should rush through the rest of this?
You can. I also am just sitting here waiting, so...
Yeah, well, that kind of means I probably should rush, doesn't it? Also, what the hell is going on Discord right now? Oh, it's not our Discord. It's a different one. Once again, you can contact us, VGLpodcast@gmail.com, with your letters, voicemails, game-related topics, or just tweet to us, VGL Podcast, on the Twitter. Our lovely, lovely patrons are to blame for this absolute madness. You find out more at patreon.com/VGL Podcast. And if you wish to find the RSS feed, the show notes, or links to all our stuff, you can find us VGLpodcast.podbean.com or on your podcatcher of choice if you wish to use them. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod, and our Discovery Cube music is Doobly Doo by the same artist. You can find his work over at Incompetech.com, and...
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice. Bye-bye now.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.